Welcome to My Forever Home, the podcast. I'm Frances Cosway and I've helped hundreds of people create forever homes. I can't wait to share the journey with you. So let's start. Hi everyone and welcome to Your Forever Home, the podcast. I'm very excited this week to have Rob Sinclair from E&S Trading with me today to talk all things appliances. Now, Rob has been in the business since 91 after he's just told me he did a year of biology and felt that was a waste of time. So now he's Managing Director at E&S Trading and is really passionate about all things appliances. So I'm very excited to have him here today to answer lots and lots of questions about all sorts of kitchen appliances that we need for our kitchen. So welcome so much, Rob.
Francis, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. You're quite correct in the fact that I do love what I do. It's been my whole life, and as a kid growing up in a family business, I was very fortunate enough not to be pushed into it, and I fell into it and fell in love with it. So here I am 30 years later.
Yeah, it's so good when you hear the story of someone following the family business because they so want to, rather than I see it so many times. You sort of push, you feel compelled. So, and it's so obvious with you, the passion is so there. You can tell you certainly are loving it rather than being pushed into it. So fantastic. I'm going to kick off today, Rob, just with, look, there's so many different appliances that people need for their kitchen, and they are generally, the most expensive appliances that you're going to go buy for your home. And so I really wanted to do a rundown today of the key ones, obviously fridges, dishwashers, your ovens, your steam ovens, stovetops and range hoods. And then I probably want to touch on just a little bit at the end about some of the other things that are coming into the market now and what you're seeing. I know that you're on the floor a lot. You're not just sitting in the offices, you're always on the floor listening to consumers, just what you see coming that's going to be coming out in the next couple of years. But if we just, as an overall, what do you think some of, and I'll go through this by category, but what do you think some of the key buying criteria are when you're looking at kitchen appliances?
So for me, performance is everything. If it doesn't do something for you, then you're wasting your time buying it. So a criteria that we set inside our business, whether it's a tap, whether it's a fridge, whether it's a washing machine, whether it's a dishwasher, whether it's a range hood or cooktop and oven, doesn't matter. Understand your requirements at home first, and then find the product that's going to deliver you the performance to the best of your budget. And so if I'm buying a range hood, for example, I buy a range hood because I want it to deliver me high performance suction and remove as much steam and smoke as possible. I want it to be nice and quiet, and I want good lighting. So find the one that suits your budget and does all those three things, and you should be in business. So performance is crucial. Then where possible, you need to find brands where you've got a pedigree of performance and you're dealing with global, renowned brands or specialty brands that, work in a particular field, like Cosway only make range hoods in Australia. So, they're a specialist in the category. So find pedigree, find reliability through that pedigree, and know that you can get your product serviced and fixed after the sale. The most important thing is all of the domestic appliances we use at home, we use them. And obviously more now than ever, we're using dishwashers, washing machines, fridges, ovens, cooktops, and it's really exciting. But you want something that's going to be not only reliable, do something, but then when it goes and has a little fault, you can get it fixed easily and you can get parts to keep it going. So it's crucial for me. Not every brand delivers that, Francis. And I think for us as an organisation, we want brands that have great service, great spare parts, and attitude towards fixing it for the customer. And that's regardless of the price point. A Westinghouse upright cooker that starts at $700 or a Westinghouse oven at $700 is the best oven you can buy at that price point because they're good quality, built in Adelaide, and you can get the thing fixed and get spare parts for it.
And I think that is, I'm hearing that more and more from my clients indeed, is around, I want to know that there is going to be some after sales service, because I think we're hearing a lot of horror stories across all products in the market, not just for kitchens and appliances, that the after sales service now is becoming more of a big deal because people don't want the headache of, having to chase things constantly. So that's great that there's, that's something that you really focus on as well. And I think that's music to my ears around the whole, just to hear it from you too, that it's the need. You've got to work out what you need. Rather, I always say to my clients, sort of avoid the whole keeping up with the Joneses thing. Work out what you need, work out the functionality that you need, which is actually how we go and do our kitchen design based on what they need, rather than all focusing on, I want the latest black thing and I want the latest of this. If it doesn't work for you, it's a complete waste of money.
Correct. And even on that design thing as well, Francis, I'm always going to err towards a product that delivers me more performance and more reliability than a fashion design statement. And when I'm looking at brands of tapware and the like, I want something that I can trust and know, and I want something that's going to deliver me long-term reliability. Not a product I've never heard of before that can't be fixed.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's what we hone in with our clients all the time. If it doesn't work, forget, the looks will all change over time anyway. If it doesn't work for you, it's bad design, and it's just going to create nightmares in the end. So fantastic. That's all reaffirmed, guys. For those of you that follow me a lot, that's all I ever harp on about. So, we're hearing it as well again, which is fantastic. All right, Rob, let's start with fridges. So I'm going to talk about lots of different things about fridges anyway in this particular podcast. But what are some of the key buying criteria for a fridge? Because there's so many different types. You've got integrated, we've got, and we'll talk about, some of the price differences, but just go through some of your buying criteria in terms of fridges, because my, oh my, there's some new things coming out with fridges off the scale.
Cool. So let's keep it simple first. So if I'm just replacing a fridge, I think it's important, again, seek out the quality brands. Look for Westinghouse, look for Fisher & Paykel. Those two brands have been synonymous with our marketplace for such a long period of time. Sadly, they're not both made in Australia, but they've got their own factories and they manufacture their own products. They're not relabeling stuff under their own name. So great brands to work with. Mitsubishi is a specialty brand of refrigeration, is also a freestanding replacement fridge. So those brands will offer you, I think, first of all, reliability, great refrigeration performance, where you're getting, good quality temperature control, nice temperature settings. When you set 4, it stays at 4. The freezer's at -18 where it should be. And then you start to look for, well, do I want a product where maybe I want a little bit more freezer because I like to keep stuff in the freezer more, or am I a person that's biased more towards fresh food? And obviously, I think even recently, the current events would see many people change in how they've been, I suppose, storing food and looking at things. And particularly, I think capacity in fridge and freezer is a really important dynamic to understand. So when I look at the brands like Fisher & Paykel and Westinghouse Electrolux brands, those products are really well built. They've got strong shelves. They've got spill-proof shelves. So if I have a little thing that, leaks or spills over, it's not flowing through the whole fridge. So the glass shelf is nice. The crispers are on runners, so they slide in and slide out nicely. And the plastics are more durable than some other brands, so they tend not to break as easily. And then when I look at Mitsubishi, I was looking at one of their 3-door models the other day, Francis. It's a French door. So It means, again, it's got a nice wide opening to get platters in and store things easily. But then it's got a separate compartment to store my fruit and veg in, which I really liked. And it even had a little shelf at the back that sort of sits halfway down in this fresh food compartment, where things that are easily bruised can be sort of protected on this little, almost like a hammock sitting in the in the fresh food compartment. So again, for people who wanted more fresh food storage, that particular Mitsubishi fridge with a separate fresh food storage area for fruit and vegetables, really wonderful. Still plenty of room in the fridge to store more fresh food. And I think that particular dynamic was really strong towards someone who regularly goes to the market and shops for fresh foods and less in the freezer space. And of course, then if I'm renovating a place, Francis, and I'm then beginning to consider things like having an integrated fridge, because I might be putting a whole new set of joinery into my kitchen. Then I think that dynamic is also important. And I think if the opportunity exists where you're making a renovation of your kitchen or you're building a new home, I would 100% go with an integrated refrigerator, which makes it so much more in keeping with the kitchen.
It does, but I think one of the biggest things that I get pushback on from clients is the cost. So what sort of cost difference are we looking at for a freestanding? And look, not all fridges are the same, but just roughly as a percentage, how much more are you going to spend for integrated?
So if I buy a Fisher & Paykel bottom mount 500 litre fridge freezer, I can buy that product for, depending on the finish, $1,600 to $2,000.
Yeah.
If I buy that as a fully integrated version, Francis, it'll become $4,500 to $5,000. So
it's about double, a bit more than double.
About double. And so to your point, obviously budget permitting, if you go to integrated, fantastic. And then brands like Leave Hair, Miele, for example, in the integrated space, then also do the BioFresh compartments, where you're getting controlled humidity and controlled environments to really keep fruit and veg stored and get sometimes 2 times, sometimes 3 times as much length out of the storage of your fresh food. So, again, not only am I getting integrated as a benefit, but I'm also getting food storage benefits, which particularly the Liebherr brand through their BioFresh system, does a great job of high humidity for some fruit and veg, lower humidity for others.
And look, the Liebherr is just, it's German, and I'm very pro-German, having living in Holland for a long time. It's just, they just construct things so brilliantly. They're engineers and then some. So, but the Liebherr for me would be the high end of your integrated fridges. And
Absolutely.
Then I think Fisher and Paykel have got some as well. So what sort of price variation are we looking at with going high end to the lower end on integrated?
I think the advantage of the Fisher and Paykel integrated models is that I think they really sort of suit customers who want a bit bigger fridge compared to those European sizes, which is why, Francis, you end up buying 2 Liebherrs at sort of $3,000 each, and you start to spend $6,000 to $7,000 for a pair, which gives you sort of a 1.2 metre wide fridge freezer, BioFresh compartment, or many other alternatives. There's a bit of a mix and match thing you can do with Liebherr. And then, of course, the 500 litre version of a Fisher and Paykel is sort of that 4,500, not 6,500, 7,000. So Fisher and Paykel, I think, really do cater for a very cost-effective, bigger cabinet that can be used in integrated refrigerators. And they've also beneficially, I think, for smaller homes, Francis, introduced an 800 wide cabinet, which is really quite handy for some tighter apartments, but you still want a bigger fridge in those areas. So, but as you pointed out, integrated can be more expensive based upon the fact that it's a more unique style of fridge, and they come from specialty manufacturers like Liebherr, like Mueller, and more recently Fisher and Paykel have really got into that space.
But I think because, this is all about forever homes. And if you are going to be building your forever home that you're going to be in, as I define it, 10 plus years, I think it's money worth spending, because then you have got this amazing aesthetic as well. And it does actually align and make it a lot more streamlined, your kitchen, particularly if it is in a smaller space. Now, the one thing that I get asked a lot about and that people worry about is, what happens if something goes wrong with the integrated fridge? I know we're focusing on those at the moment, but it's where I get the most questions. What happens if something goes wrong? Can they be easily repaired? And secondly, can they be easily replaced?
So absolutely. If you look at any of the Liebherr refrigerators that we've been selling 15 years ago, the actual size of the cabinet hasn't changed, Francis. So you've got the ability to literally slide that unit out. Yeah, it does require a slightly more talented installer slash remover to just decommission the old one and recommission a new one, but certainly that can be done. And because the measurements of Liebherr have remained consistent over, say, a 15-year period, they're respecting the fact that these are integrated products that need to have something that can be replacing it again down the track. So certainly, I think really it's something that they are replaceable. If you look at Fisher and Paykel, the models they've released in the last 3 years, it's a significant range of integrated fridges now from them, and they will all be consistent models like the rest of their refrigeration range. That's hardly changed a bit in the 20 years or 30 years I've been selling them. Manufacturers do tend to understand that consistent sizing is important, and it's no different to dishwashers as well, Francis. The semi-integrated Bosch dishwashers I was selling 20 years ago are exactly the same measurement that they are today. So, having disconnected an old Bosch, where I am here now, out in the country, I've got that machine was replaced with the Siemens dishwasher, and Siemens and Bosch are the same company. Yeah. Exactly the same. Disconnect, reconnect. But apart from being slightly more skilled in adjusting the joinery, the old panel came off, the new dishwasher went in, the old panel went back on, and it looks like nothing has ever changed.
It's fairly straightforward, and I think that's the thing that people get a little bit worried about. So then, I suppose we've talked about then the built-in and the freestanding and why it's so much nicer to have integrated. What are some of the things that you're seeing come through? I've just been looking at some of the things from Samsung. Now, that's not a brand that you mentioned. Is that a reliable fridge? I know that they're trying to get into that space, and there's a lot of gadgets and gizmos, and sometimes people think, the more it's got, the more fancy things that it's just more things that can break down. So what's your view on all the stuff that's coming out at the moment?
Look, they're a brand, and you know me, Francis. I'm pretty frank with my talk. Samsung is a brand we choose not to range, and it's a brand we choose not to range because when something goes wrong, you can't get it fixed. And
really good advice for listeners there.
So the reality isn't you just only have to line look at the forums. the spare parts and availability of spare parts from Samsung prevent you from able to get your product fixed once it breaks down. So you can have a fridge not working and be waiting 3, 6, 9 months for the gadget or the widget to fix it, and you cannot get them. And so in our business, where we choose where a product can't be fixed, and it should be still working, where we choose to give the customer a full refund in that situation. If a Westinghouse fridge was 3 years old and I couldn't get it fixed in a week, I'd give the customer a full refund. Samsung, unfortunately, were causing me to refund every fridge I sold, and therefore we chose to stop selling them.
Fair enough, because that creates a headache not only for the customer. A fridge is not something you want to have to break down and then you can't fix it quickly, but also a massive headache for you. So that makes complete sense that you're not a fan.
And I suppose, but it still comes back to understanding your needs. So for some people who love to have larger platters, then sometimes the French door refrigerators, which are both, both cupboards to open up or both doors to open up like a French door. You've got the ability then to have an 800 wide interior for the largest of platters, and potentially having the freezer at the bottom if that was something that you didn't use as often. I think that's sensible, because I've got the area that I go to, which is my normal refrigerator and fresh food, now at chest height. I'm not having to bend to get to my milk, my orange juice, or anything else that I store. My crispers are at waist height, which is delightful. And really, I think always understanding the application and getting ergonomics correct, allowing the product to have the right size of storage for the things that you keep, fresh food compartments, meat, deli compartments. Really analyse each, whether it's a Westinghouse fridge or an Electrolux fridge or a Fisher & Paykel fridge or a Mitsubishi fridge, just to name a couple of the major brands in the market of freestanding models. Analyse those fridges to your needs and come in with a sort of how do I stuff in my type of mentality, and what are the things I store, so that when you go to an appliance store, then you can really have, you're not being swayed easily by gizmos and gadgets that you're not going to use. And you'll hear the whole way through the whole conversation we have today, Francis, I'm not looking to sway for gizmos and gadgets. Where they satisfy a need, then they're fantastic, and everyone's needs are different. And it's most important to respect everyone's need is different.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I've always, as an entertainer, a French door fridge for me makes complete sense, because we've got the traditional freezer on the left and fridge on the right before French doors were devised. And, we have to have a second fridge to fit our, an 800 fridge to fit our big, large platters in. Yep. So I've never really understood the whole freezer on the left, even though I've got it, because it's so pokey. It's just a pain. Yep. But does that suit? I can't even work out how that would suit someone when the French door is just so easy. As you've said, everything is there at eye level. But I suppose it's a personal preference.
Look, it isn't, even though I'd recommend French door all day long, I have a side-by-side fridge because I don't need all that width, but what I love is all the adjustability, Francis. And I've got this in my side-by-side fridge. I've got this shelf where I allow for full tall bottles, so I can have my milk, my sparkling water. I can have all these sort of things lined up in the fridge, a bit like a milk bar. So it sort of deals with my storage requirements pretty well. And the crispers are massive in mine, so all my fresh food storage is managed.
Yeah.
It's important to have your mindset when you go into the appliance store and really, think about yourself personally, not listen too much to the salesperson telling you about things that aren't relevant to your home. If he's not listening, then you need to go somewhere else.
I agree. And I mean, when we get onto ovens, I'll touch on that too. And I mean, I actually have my fridge upside down. So I have all my condiments and everything in the crispers, because I store everything in Tupperware containers. So I have all that stacked at eye level, and I have all my condiments and sauces and everything in the crispers. So I'm completely upside down. So for me, it's about those shelves being able to be adjustable so I can stack my Tupperware, because all my fresh produce is in Tupperware.
And I think, that stackability of your shelving, Francis, is the most important thing. And some brands deliver you more shelf positions than other. And, Fisher & Paykel have always had more, rack positions inside their fresh food compartments. And I think, whether it's trying to get the right height to perfectly maximize the number of Tupperware containers on a shelf, which I fully get, or whether it's just wanting to, have your condiment jars at the right position, or whether it's me who wants to have my bottles, not lying down. I want them standing up. Everyone's application should be suitable or suited. The more flexibility you can get, the more movability of the positions you can get, I think better.
Yeah, and I think that will probably then lead us on to dishwashers and the application, because I know with a dishwasher, for example, I think that was such an awesome summary on fridges. And just before I go to dishwashers, is there anything else you wanted to add about fridges?
No, but I just want to reiterate, keep it simple. Have your shopping list of what you do in your fridge, and then go and look for quality brands where there is a real fundamental of being able to fix the products if they ever break down. And fridges do have, lots of moving parts. So stick to Westinghouse, Fisher and Paykel, Mitsubishi, Liebherr, Miele. These are all good brands where you can get a good quality repair technician who's trained, who can bring the service and the parts to the home.
Yeah, I think that's awesome advice. And I'm glad we touched on some of the others that may not be so good on the service. So dishwashers, and we're talking about application and the fact that some people have different requirements. And I know the one that comes up so much, you probably know it too, is whether you have the cutlery drawer or whether you have your cutlery stacked. And I think that is such a polarized, well, not a question, but a polarized view for some people. It's like they either love the cutlery drawer, they think it's fantastic, or they really like the caddy. And I can't stand the cutlery drawer because it takes too much time. And yet most of my relatives in the Netherlands, everything was just all precise and she loved it. So I think that's one of those key things. You really need to know what's going to suit you best.
You do.
I bet you like the cutlery drawer.
You're correct.
Yeah.
But Francis, it's only recently that I like the cutlery drawer, because when I bought a house, a new place, the Miele dishwasher, it was the first time I had a cutlery drawer, and I was excited to start using it. And I thought, oh, this could be interesting. But the thing I love most, so if we, and by the way, everyone's got to have their own, decision making here around what suits them. And Francis, I respect your position here. Many brands actually are flexible enough that either a cutlery basket or a cutlery drawer is available in the same model, and particularly Miele and Bosch in particular have got some really flexibility that you get to choose. Buy the model, it comes with both. Take one of the ones that you don't want out,
which is great, because then you can try it. Yeah,
exactly. So the thing I've loved about cutlery tray is if I take the time, yes, Francis, to stack the knives together, the spoons together, the forks together, they wash perfectly every time. There's no spooning. And if I've been particular enough at the start, I just get to grab a pile of knives, put it in the cutlery drawer, a pile of forks, and put it away. So not only do we put them in each spot, but we actually take the time to start off forks with forks, knives with knives, spoon with spoon, teaspoon with teaspoon. And it means the unloading part is so much faster. It's just grab.
Yeah, I suppose you're doing the work at the start rather than at the end. I just can't possibly believe I can get my kids to do it when I can't even get them to keep their cutlery up.
If we really I understand, but for me, the real benefit in dishwashers is, so there's, when you look at a dishwasher, for me, there's some real important criteria, as there is in every category of things, to assess to make sure you're working towards what suits your needs. So stacking is crucial. If you use wine glasses, then you need to find a dishwasher that's going to satisfy your wine glasses. If you don't, and you use coffee cups and glasses and mugs, then find the dishwasher that suits you best for that. If you cook a lot and you're regularly looking for a spot for a fry pan, a pot, a colander, plus your normal crockery and cutlery and wine glasses, then find a real multi-purpose flexible dishwasher, and they are absolutely available. So understand what it is you're putting in. Wine glasses, baking dishes. If you've got larger diameter plates, take it to the store. You must take your things that are important to you into the showroom. Take your wine glass, take your biggest plates you use all the time. If you're using mum's third generation Bessemer fry pan or pot or baking dish, take that baking dish into the store and make sure it's going to fit. When you really do get the right dishwasher that's got the most flexible stacking, then you're going to have, I think, the most enjoyable experience with it. So stacking is crucial. Wash performance is crucial. And of course, the lower the noise, the better. And better quality brands dry better. So drying, wash performance, stackability, and noise. They're the 4 criteria.
Okay, so on the washability, so all those other things except for the drying and the washability, you can pretty much assess by taking your stuff in, and that's awesome advice actually, to take your big plates in and so forth. But how can you understand then how good it's going to wash and how good it's going to dry? Because you can't try before you buy.
So it's a great question. Dishwashers is one of my favourite categories. I've been selling them for 30 years. And I was talking to clients on the weekend in our Geelong Saturday, Sunday dishwashers. There are brands who have been making dishwashers for 50 plus years. Miele, Asco, Bosch, you know, just to name three. And I can also put in there Siemens, which is also made by Bosch, Neff, which is also made by Bosch, Gaggenau, which is also made by Bosch. But if we just talk the Bosch Siemens group, the Neff, so the Asco group and the Miele group, and then also possibly the AEG brand, these are brands that have just had a pedigree in making great quality dishwashers. So if I look at Miele, flexibility of stacking in their new range is extraordinary.
It's amazing, yeah.
Yep. And the final thing that gives you the ultimate stackability, Francis, if you're doing a new kitchen and you can get an 86 centimetre gap beneath the benchtop, then put in the taller tub, supersize, extra large capacity machine into the kitchen. Because that extra height means if you're using the cutlery tray at the top, you'll have the cutlery tray at the top, a very area to put taller wine glasses, even pots, colanders and the like will fit on the top. And then you have this whole bottom basket with height for bigger pots, bigger colanders, large plates, cutting boards, baking dishes will all fit in the grid system of the bottom basket. So you get this really incredible ability to wash bigger things in the bottom, medium things in the middle shelf, and then have your cutlery stowed away in the cutlery basket, giving you so much space throughout the whole dishwasher to fit more than you could have ever imagined, particularly in a busy household where you're cooking regularly, maybe you entertain a bit, or you just like cooking for the family in general. I find the taller tub dishwasher is something to try and find in a new kitchen. Now, they're almost impossible to retrofit into an existing kitchen. So it's nice to split that.
But if they're 86, they should fit under a standard 900. It's just going to affect the kicker.
Yeah, correct. So it's just a matter of double checking that. And I think, you know, it's just another thing to look for in a taller tub machine is just to make sure you've got that space beneath benchtop. We find on some kitchens, Francis, where you know this better than I would being in design, but when we start going to a 60mm profile on the benchtop, it then eats into the dishwasher space.
It does, yeah. So, but yeah, and look, we're even designing kitchens now where they are, the benchtop is being higher than 900 because we're actually getting taller. So if both adults in that home are quite tall, we're actually building the bench tops to be 95 or 950 off the floor anyway. So that's great advice. So who's making the extra large dishwashers? What brand? Miele, obviously.
Miele, Bosch, Asco, sort of the AEG, the sort of the three key brands. And when I use the Bosch brand, of course, I think it's important to point out, Francis, Bosch as a company globally own Bosch, Siemens, Neff and Gaggenau. So all of those products are German made for the most part, and they're a hugely powerful global player when it comes to manufacturing appliances and having a bunch of different aesthetics across the range. They don't have everything coming from the one factory. Gaggenau's built in the Gaggenau factory, Neff's built in a Neff factory, Bosch and Siemens tend to share the same factories. So when I look at brands, Bosch Group and then Miele as a brand, Asco as a brand are by far the three, the main dishwasher brands to consider.
It's interesting because I actually have an AEG and I know that they've been trying to get into the Australian market. I mean, mine's 6 years old, but it had a huge warranty and it is absolutely silent. It is just great. I love it. But it took quite a bit of convincing for me because it's like AEG, but I think they're made in Italy. But do you stock also the AEG stuff?
Oh, we love it. So I mean, you would have heard me mention the brand before. I mean, that's the other fourth pillar of the brands that we recommend and sell. Again, whether it's built in Italy, whether it's built in Germany, whether it's built in Poland, whether it's built in the Czech Republic, the most important thing is AEG dishwashers are made in an AEG factory.
Yeah.
And you know, Miele have dryers that are made in the Czech Republic for their washing machines. Bosch have dryers that are made for their washing machines that are made in Poland. But it's always in a Miele factory, a Bosch factory, an AEG factory, using all of their own componentry, and you can just bank it in that their products are going to be more reliable. So, again, those brands of dishwashers for me, Francis, are the ones to go with, and they have so much. There's so much flexibility across that, and you may have seen the new model that AEG have released, which is called the Comfort Lift. So for people who are finding it a bit hard to bend down for whatever reason, the Comfort Lift gives you a basket that's using Hetic or Hafler hinges, but they're very, very solid. And when you pull the bottom basket where your plates and crockery and pots and pans might be, you pull the drawer, and then all of a sudden it glides up into the
awesome.
into the height of the top basket. So you push it back it just goes down like this back into the bottom of the dishwasher. So this comfort lift dishwasher is a beautiful motion of taking the bottom basket. As you pull it out, it lifts up into the higher position, and then everything is at sort of belly button height to unload and reload. So again, specific brands are doing specific things to create opportunities for individual.
3 clients that are just coming to my head straight away that are going to love that. So I'll get them in. That's fantastic. And look,
AEG
I use AEG myself and I've just had no issues with it, but I cannot believe how silent it is. I've never come across a machine that's just so quiet. I can't even tell it's on.
So when you're looking at dishwasher ratings, just on the noise of decibels, they're all measured in a decibel rating, and look for machines that are getting beneath 50 decibels. The minute you get beneath 50 decibels, 48, 46, 44, even in some cases 42, once you're at 42, you cannot hear it run. You've actually got to go and open the dishwasher to whether you turn it on. And that's why in some cases, Francis, we're seeing dishwashers with like an LED display that beams onto the floor of the kitchen. It tells you how many minutes to go before the wash cycle with a little LED lighting display onto your floorboards or onto your tiles. And it tells you exactly how the dishwasher's going because you can't hear it.
Yeah, well, I'm sort of finding that I have to really look at the front to say, yeah, it's on or not. So
it's a great problem to have.
Well, it is because it's, they're generally in our open plan living space. They're generally where you are going to be watching TV, and there's nothing worse than hearing it. So, that's really good advice about the decibels. So, we've obviously got our traditional freestanding dishwashers, semi-integrated and fully integrated. What sort of price difference are we looking at to go from the freestanding up to the integrated? And obviously it is going to come down to brand as well.
Yes.
And then I'll ask you, let's cover off that question first.
So Miele are one of the only 2 brands that does all of the same categories. So they've got a freestanding machine, then they've got a built under machine, which is just a stainless steel door.
Yep.
But then with the built under, you can run the kicker plate across the front, unlike the freestanding where you can't.
Yep.
So built under is the first one that gives us the ability to make it more tidy with the kitchen and a new kitchen application. And then, of course, semi-integrated is where we keep the control panel and sort of a 140, control panel across the top. And then beneath the control panel, we built the integrated door. So that's semi-integrated. And then fully integrated is where you can't see any part of the dishwasher and you're putting your joinery handle on there to open it, unless you choose one of the new Miele machines that is knock to open. You can tap on the door and the machine will open for you, which is pretty cute.
Very nice.
But so freestanding, I can buy a Bosch freestanding dishwasher depending on the time of month, where there's a special on or not, or month variation in prices. They're starting at $6.99, $7.99 for us. So I'd really have to scratch my head as to why I wouldn't buy that type of brand at that price point. When you look at all the other brands, and some of them aren't even real brands, and without being nasty, but there are brands out there like Chic and Salt. They're not a brand. They don't have factories anywhere else in the world. They're just a label on a product from some factory somewhere in Asia. And I think, for me to be able to choose a reputable brand from $6.99 or $7.99, I think that's a really budget conscious price point. But the $100 more than the no-name brands is worth it because the product is more likely to last 12 or 14 years with no service calls. Whereas the other machines, they won't wash as well. They'll be too noisy. There'll be issues with the filtration. The stacking won't be as good. And I think Bosch is a global manufacturer of dishwashers for nearly 50 years. They've got stacking right. They've got the noise low on the entry-level models, and they've got the reliability superb. And then once you step up into sort of the more the $1,000 mark in free dishwashers, then you're starting to get German-made machines, and certainly spending more than that really reduces the noise of the washing machine, or the dishwasher, I should say, and it gives you a few more functions. So freestanding dishwashers, I think the best price guide would be somewhere between $700 and sort of $1,200. If I went to the sort of the built under machines, I can buy those for sort of $1,000, give or take. And if I go semi-integrated, Francis, then I'm really sort of starting to spend $1,000 through to $2,000, and all of the variation will be features. Once I move to $2,000, I move to those taller tub machines. We've got the XXL cabinets, and they're on the higher price point. So, kicking off semi-integrated at $1,000, and then the quieter I get, and then as I move into tall tub, I'll start going to $1,500 through to $2,000. When I go to fully integrated dishwashers will start around the $1,500 mark, and then move right up to $3,000. And when you go to machines that are $1,000, they're already quiet. And then moving up the price range again towards $2,000, we'll see the XXL or tall tub cabinet come into play. And then the new release dishwashers from, say, Miele, where you're going at $2,499, and they've just released their new series of Generation 7000 dishwashers. They've just literally got onto our floors, and it's a world first of automatic dispensing of your detergent into the dishwasher. So it has this canister that goes into the door, and it does 28 washes without you having to fill up your detergent compartment once. And I think the nice thing about this is the dishwasher, in the rinsing, in the initial rinse, so you turn on the dishwasher in the first 6 minutes, it's just spraying water everywhere, and it's getting the dirt to come off the plates and just beginning the process of preparing to wash. During that process, it's actually analysing how much dirt's in the water, so it can then determine how much detergent to use and what temperatures might be required. And then it will give you a proper dispensing of the detergent. So at the very end, obviously, $5,000 for a Miele fully integrated and above with that new auto dosing technology, Francis.
Well, yeah, I can understand from that you're going to use less detergents. So with the dispensing then, it means that you're obviously going to use less detergent. You don't need to be too fussed about it. But I'd say it's then also more environmentally friendly because you're not using as much detergent. And I assume then you're using powder rather than the tablets.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And powder's always much better.
I mean, Miele have obviously spent an awfully large amount of money investing into what is the best type of combination of powders to give you great wash result, minimal impact on the environment, and as efficient use for wash performance as possible. So you're putting as little detergent in as required.
Yeah, God, there's a lot more to dishwashers than just it's going to wash you. There's just so many things to consider. Yep. And I had, what was my other question? I think it was around the buying criteria in terms of what's really going to make a difference, but we've covered it off in terms of stacking and, all the different, flexibility that you're going to get. I know for me, it was all about, could I get my wine glasses in? We actually hand wash all our bakeware and everything else, but it is really looking at the flexibility and getting the adaptability and the stacking that you've got options.
It's so important. The Miele that I'm currently using, which is a 4-year-old one, I'm just about to change it over because I'm lucky enough to be able to do so. But the new stacking that's in these Miele machines that have been brought out for wine glasses is much better. And that's probably the only criticism I've had of my existing Miele is that the glass stacking is a little bit weak. But that's been solved with the new range of dishwashers. It's got beautiful silicon little grabs that when you push the wine glass in, the actual grab comes against the wine glass stem, so it can't move at all. It's just beautiful how it works.
I feel like I need to upload my dishwasher. I'm only 6 years old. I still think that's pretty new, but it's sounding pretty flash. Now, because I lived in Europe for so long, 450 dishwashers were really big over there from a space-saving perspective, and I found here that I've been back for 10 years, but the 450 is really not that popular here. Or where are you seeing people use it? And I see also that the price you pay for a 450, it's almost like a false economy unless space is just such an issue.
I think your space would have to be super tight because you're 100% right. Pound for pound, you're going to spend more for a 450 than you will for a 60 centimetre version of the same dishwasher, which then really the only reason you're going to spend $1,400 for a 450 dishwasher is because every centimetre means something in your apartment. It's that the design's that tight. If you can save 15 centimetres, it's allowing a bigger fridge, which might be more of a priority.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does make it really cost prohibitive here, unless exactly as you say, you need those extra 15 centimetres because it's just not worth it. Where I absolutely loved my 450 in Amsterdam, and dishwashers are pretty unusual there because I just don't have the space, but the 450 was gold. And when I came out here and wanted to design for 450, it's like, they're so expensive.
They are. I think it's important to know that they're still available here, Francis.
I've seen them.
Yeah, so Miele, of course, have them. Smeg have one. There's two great quality brands that you could consider. There's possibly still one in the Bosch range, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I had a Neff, I think,
great.
Which is much bigger in Europe than it is here as well, across
Absolutely.
the board. That's awesome on dishwashers. Everyone's got to take their wine glass and their dining plate and not feel like they're a fool. They look like they're pretty smart if they go into a showroom and know what they're looking for.
It will pay dividends in the long run of enjoying
totally.
a dishwasher.
Yeah, such awesome practical advice. And again, everything you're saying is always going back to the functionality, which is just music to my ears.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about ovens. So many different things. I'm going to let you lead here, but there's so many different things about ovens, whether it's from a design perspective. We have a lot of people come to us with, I definitely want a wall oven. And obviously one of the big contenders for that is because it's more at waist height, it's easy to get in, it's easy to look at things rather than bending over for something that's under the bench. However, from a design perspective, we've often found that once we've shown them the compromise they're making in terms of the bench space they can have, they then decide to go for, an underbench oven, a freestanding oven. What I'm finding is that big cooks who want a 900, it's not necessarily available to get that in a wall oven option. And also cost. I find that to get a cost-effective option, it's often more cost-effective to have a freestanding, which is all in one. We can put the kicker underneath to make it look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. So I think there's so many things to think about. So where do you start when someone comes in and says, "Oh, I'm after an oven"?
So I went straight away.
Because I bet you that's what they come in with.
Absolutely, you're 100%
I
right.
need an oven.
So, I mean, we would first try and get a bit of a feeling as to, upright versus in the wall. The upright cooker, as you pointed out, Francis, it gives you capacity typically, because I'm going to, refer to as an upright cooker that's something that's at least 900 wide.
Yeah.
That gives you the bigger oven capacity and then the big cooking surface in all in one unit. And, with brands like Smeg at $2,500 to $3,500 for their models, and Parker with some great models in that price point, and of course the Ilvi brand, who specialises in upright cookers. Really you've got a very, very nice piece of space between $2,000 and $5,000 in an upright stove, 900 wide. Very, very important to point out the new series of Westinghouse cookers as well, Francis, Australian made, built in Adelaide, and these cookers are absolutely world class in their manufacture. I've been through the Westinghouse plant in Adelaide on 3 occasions and seen how they make their products. They are world class cookers, so important to look at those in the mix with Smeg, Ilvi, Fisher and Paykel, and even the Falcon brand, which is an English brand of cookers. But importantly,
that's pretty impressive if it's up there with the Ilve and. That's really, and the fact that it's made in Australia, that's just an awesome story.
They're really terrific products. The plant in Dudley Park over in South Australia is a world-class facility, and it's interesting. You might have, so they bake the enamel that goes on the inside of all of their ovens to 803 degrees Celsius. When you bake enamel to that temperature, you're getting the absolute best bond between the glass, which is the enamel, and the steel. So you get the steel and the enamel bonding so tightly, it's almost impossible to chip it. It doesn't crack down the future. And that's what the hallmark of great enameling of the internals of any oven are. So when you look at brands like Bosch, Miele, Gaggenau, Neff, they're all, world-class brands. But the enameling process in all of their plants is to this 800 degrees Celsius. Electrolux, who own the factory in Adelaide for Westinghouse, put through a line of ovens manufacturing that every product, whether I buy a Westinghouse stove or a chef stove for $599, or whether I buy their upright cooker for $3,000 or $7,000, depending on which one I choose, every model of product is enameled with the same quality. So it's a very, very impressive plant. So the uprights are, I think upright cookers are very much a product that feels like I am in a sort of a commercial kitchen space. They've sort of got that Goldstein, Waldorf type of commercial cooker look about them. And I think a lot of our consumers do like that. They're also obviously very, complete in the fact that you've got a 900 big stove, and in many of these cookers today, you're getting twin fans. In one of the Smeg ovens, there's 3 fans, making sure that the temperature circulation through that really large cavity is nice and even. So all of those sort of challenges we might have faced 30 years ago was, big cavities but poor circulation of temperature or uneven heat on different shelves. That's sort of been resolved by better brands today. And then, of course, once you break above 900 wide, there's some new features that are coming to the marketplace, Francis. I think it's important to point out. Wall ovens, when we get to those and talk about them, have so much flexibility because we can choose steamers, microwaves, combinations of the above. Have more than one oven gives you flexibility, so that's all exciting. But upright cookers are bringing those as well. So Smeg is releasing 1200 wide unit that's also combining a steam cooker inside one of the ovens. And Falcon have just released their 1200 wide unit that has a steam cooker in one of the ovens. So I've got in the case of the Falcon, it's 1100 wide. It's got 2 main ovens, and then it's got a steam compartment and a warming drawer. So to have all of that together in your 1100 wide upright cooker is incredible.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's flexibility we were looking for before, and extra features. So then I think, the upright cooker is an aesthetic decision. It can be an oven capacity decision, and then it can be also a cost effectiveness decision, because, to get a big 900 wide oven from Smeg, and to get a beautiful cast iron top that's also 900 wide from Smeg, and only spend $25.99 is great value. And it's the same with the Westinghouse brand. You start at $25.99 or thereabouts, right up to their models for self-cleaning, high heat self-cleaning, which of course we call pyrolysis. And to have all of those features in the 900 wide and 1200 wide cookers today, I think is really impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I know when and we get asked this a lot, should I have 2 600s or should I have a 900? And I always go back to, it depends on the type of cook you are. You might be wanting to make some cakes and do some baking in one oven, and it needs to be at a particular temperature. And then you might be doing a savoury course that needs to be at another temperature. So it's really handy to have the 2 ovens. And I needed that yesterday, but I've only got the one 900. And I thought, this is when I would actually really have liked my 2 ovens. But for me, it was always, and again, it came back to my frustrations when I was living in Europe, where you don't have 900s. It's almost unheard of. You have 600s, and, I had a big Christmas lunch. I was cooking goose, as you do overseas, and my oven wasn't big enough. And it was like, this is so frustrating. And being big entertainers and having people over often, I needed the capacity. And, when you're cooking with kids, you can put in 4 or 5 or, 4 trays of biscuits. So the capacity was big. And if you are a big cook and you need the width, you really only have one choice. You really can't go 2 600s. So again, it comes back to your right at the start, what you said about buying criteria. You have to look at how you cook, and maybe some of the restrictions you've had with your current oven, but how you want to ideally be able to bake. And it's only when I highlight some of those things about being able to put multiple cakes in or multiple biscuits that people go, oh yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. And I think that's where, if you're talking to someone on the floor and can really ask you those questions, it'll really then, you'll start to answer and work out that you're going to need the wider oven.
Yep. And look, for me, I mean, I have wall ovens, and certainly I do love the fact that I've had the flexibility in different homes that I renovated, Francis. And in some cases, I've had underbench ovens because that's all I could fit. And then in the larger that I renovated over time, I've had the room to get the ovens up into the wall. Again, design, the capacity and design will always push against each other a bit in this space, because the design criteria could really show off more bench space, as you rightly point out. And so we might sacrifice a bit of oven space or convenience to get a better bench top, and that'll come down to you and your client, of course, and we fit in with that.
And they've got to work out what's going to work best for them. But as designers, we need to highlight to them what some of the trade-offs going to be, and it is that design versus functionality and working out what's going to work best for them. So the other thing that I always highlight to my clients, and I'm sure you'll get to this, is not all ovens are the same in terms of width. So no 600 or no 900, you've got to look at the internal measurement. And I know that's exactly, I bought a Neff in Europe because it was the biggest I could get inside. So why are some of them, what makes them so much smaller inside versus a bigger cavity? I think it's got to do with the cleaning mechanisms that are in there. Why aren't they all just the same inside?
Well, I mean, obviously each brand has its, air circulation is the most important thing in an oven. Mm-hmm. So when a manufacturer is making an oven, they're bringing into the criteria of, I need to put a baking dish in to do roasting or biscuits. Maybe going to have multiple level cooking for cookies. Maybe going to do a pot roast in a Le Creuset French cast iron pot with the lom. They're trying to cater to all types of cooking from around the globe. And the number one thing they're trying to always achieve in any oven, no matter which the manufacturer is to try and get the temperature in the bottom shelf, the middle shelf, and the top shelf all the same. Yeah. So, Neff as a brand, for example, the way their air circulates in their oven is unique compared to, say, the way Bosch circulate their air, or the way Gaggenau circulate their air, or the way Smeg or Ilve try and get the airflow around their ovens. And, if you look at a brand like Wolf, which is an American oven, they've put the fan that used to be in the middle of the oven sitting here. They've taken the fan and put 2 fans into the corners of the oven, but up vertically, and they're a spinning fan, tangential fan like this, not one that oscillates like this. So you've got 2 fans in the corner, allowing to create this concave back, giving you even more space and depth.
Wow.
In the oven. So my fans are now in the corner. So the airflow is perfect. They're full height and they deliver this really amazing airflow. So every brand
you're paying then for, because Wolf's pretty serious stuff.
Yeah, they're a seriously good oven.
They're pretty serious.
But I use that example more of the differences are every brand's fighting to get the best performance of airflow and evenness of temperature throughout the compartment. So every brand has their way of doing that. And you know, again, recognizing what it is that you do at home is most important. I don't do a lot of pastry or cake baking, but I love, for me, a chicken roast is once a week. I would do a chicken roast and sometimes twice. And I love other forms of roasting as well. So when I'm doing a chicken roast, I want to know that my chicken can sit in its baking dish. And then I've got room for my favorite potatoes that need to fit in the oven as well, which are the Hasselback potatoes that go on a completely separate shelf with some roast cauliflower. And so those are all sitting there doing their thing, and the roast chicken's on another level. And I can do all of that in a 60 centimetre oven. It's because I've chosen well. I've got a 44 centimetre width from one rack. And by the way, it's not from the enamel to the enamel. It's the width from the inside of the shelving to the other inside of the shelving. That's 44 centimetres across usable space. And to your point, Francis, every one of them is different. Some of them are only 41 centimetres, and that 3 different centimetres makes a difference. And then sometimes the lowest shelf position isn't low enough. So you don't have enough height in the oven to have a proper size roast and a second rack inside the oven. So you'll see us in an easy fashion in our stores. We have rubber chickens. So we're regularly putting a rubber chicken on a dish to show how big a chicken looks in the oven, and then putting the second rack in above the chicken so you can see how much room is still above the second rack. And I think that's an important thing to sort of determine. So bringing in favorite baking dishes is a must. You know, if you've got a Bessemer baking dish that's part of your cooking routine, we're not here to change that. You know, bring that in and let us learn how we can find the right oven with you to suit those needs. But again, understanding what you do. Do you bake? Do you roast? Do you want flexibility? Then choose an oven that's going to give you all of those things at once. And you know, brands like Neff, brands like Bosch and Siemens and Ilvi and Smeg and others are all great products that do this. And even the new range of Westinghouse in their ovens, again built in Adelaide, you know, they've just got some fabulous features. The number one thing I'm going to be looking for though in an oven, other than its performance, is I really think it's important to consider if your budget can get you to self-cleaning.
It's self-cleaning means. I was just about to ask you if that's really a fad or whether that's a really serious thing.
It's a super serious thing. I mean, today you can spend $1,200 on a 60 centimetre oven, and that would be a Westinghouse, even a Bosch. And those ovens have the high heat self-cleaning. So it's a dedicated program that you will turn on once every 3 months, depending on how much dirt you make. And it heats up the oven to 500 degrees Celsius. That is a running cost of 50 cents to do that. So there's a small cost. But I'm not using any cream cleansers. I'm not using elbow grease. I'm just turning the oven on to 500 degrees Celsius for an hour and a half. And it changes the fats into ash. And that then, when it's finished, I'll let the oven cool down and I can go and get a nice wet sponge and wipe out the oven, and it's spotless. Bearing in mind that all the ovens that, you know, are making this quality enamel heated up to 803 degrees Celsius, they're the ovens that can cater for this high heat cleaning.
Yeah.
So for me, to your point earlier, Francis, capacity is crucial. And sometimes considering buying a second oven or even a combination oven with a steamer, which I'm sure you and I will discuss the benefits of steamers at some point. But you know, the having flexibility of having more than one oven can be very, very handy. And I must admit, I've always enjoyed wherever I could in a kitchen, wherever I was doing a renovation, to have a second oven, or an oven that was maybe an oven and a steamer combined was very helpful.
Absolutely. And I know that a lot of clients are going a lot more down that steamer route, although not necessarily understanding that that's a completely different cooking type. And I have lived with a girlfriend of mine who had one, and it was amazing how quickly she could cook. So just quickly on, before we go on to steam ovens, just the normal ovens, and if you are going to have an integrated, how big can you get them? What's the maximum size? 'Cause I know you can't get them in 9. I believe you can get Millet doing an 800 or a 750 wide.
You're talking an oven?
An oven that's integrated, built in.
Oh, so You mean just installed into the wall? Yeah.
Yeah.
So wall ovens will be, depending on the manufacturer, we have them available 60 centimetres wide. There are some brands that do 700 centimetre wide. There are some that are doing an 800, not many. I think only one of them might be an Ilvi. And then, of course, you've got 900. All of those can be installed under bench or in the wall.
Okay, so you have got 900s that go in the wall.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, that's the part that I didn't think was available. They only went up to 800.
So even if you take the two different SMEG ovens that come in a 90 centimetre, both of those can be mounted at any height you choose.
That's fantastic.
Purely just a matter of choosing the right, creating the right cavity to suit the oven. And in some cases, I've even seen, Francis, where some, crazy, but some clients have put two 90 centimetre ovens on top of each other in the wall, which is a lot of oven.
Crazy. That's a lot of oven. Yeah. Okay.
And just on ovens too, I think, just back to the key criteria. Look at your capacity and make sure it's going to fit what you fit. Look at the furniture and the accessories that the manufacturer provide you to do the job. Biscuit trays, deeper baking dishes. Some brands give you nothing. Some brands give you 2 or 3 wire racks and 2 or 3, one biscuit dish and one deeper baking dish. When you're getting 2 and 3 of these and you're getting